Hospitals are places that witness pain and loss every single day. The walls echo with stories of heartbreak, struggle, and sometimes quiet goodbyes. But every now and then, between the beeping machines and the sterile hallways, something truly miraculous happens. A story unfolds that reminds us of the incredible power of human connection and hope. Tonight's story is one of those. It's about a patient who vanished from his hospital bed 12 years ago without a trace, only to return with a truth that number one, not even the nurse who cared for him was ready to hear. This isn't just a story about the hospital. It's a story about a promise, a memory, and a life that came full circle in the most unexpected way. Nurse Sarah had spent the better part of her career in the chaos of the emergency unit. She was a veteran, someone who thought she had seen it all. She'd witnessed terrible accidents, mended broken bodies, and held hands through devastating heartbreaks. She'd also seen miracles, those rare moments when a life teetered on the edge, only to be pulled back by sheer will and a little bit of luck. But out of all the thousands of faces that had passed through those doors, one case never, ever left her mind. It was a memory that had become a ghost in the back of her thoughts for over a decade. 12 years ago, a young boy was brought in after a horrific car crash. He was about 13 years old, unconscious, and utterly alone. There were no more parents rushing in behind the ambulance, no more ID in his pockets, no more name to call him by. He was just a boy, fighting for his life, with no one in the world to claim him. They called him a John Doe. But to Sarah, he was more than that. Something about his vulnerability, his solitude, pulled at her heart. She found herself spending every spare moment by his side, refusing to leave him. For 3 long days and nights, she was his anchor. She held his cold, unresponsive hand, talking to him, telling him stories, promising him he wasn't alone. She fed him through a tuba, cleaned his face, and even stood firmly in front of the senior doctors when they discussed moving him to a last critical ward to free up the bed. She fought for him, fiercely and protectively. On the 4th morning, she walked into his room with a renewed sense of hope, ready to start another day by his side. But the bed was empty. The sheets were cold, the boy was gone. There was no more record of a transfer, no more discharge file. Nothing. It was as if he had simply vanished into thin air. Adam, the name she had secretly given him in her heart, had disappeared. 12 years passed. Life in the hospital moved on, as it always does. The memory of the lost boy faded into a quiet ache for Sarah, a story she rarely told. Then, one chaotic evening, the piercing sound of fire alarms ripped through the hospital. Amid the confusion, a man was carried in on a stretcher. He was wounded from a fire, covered in soot, but he was conscious, and he was repeating one thing, over and over again, to anyone who would listen: "Where is Nurse Sarah? I need to see Nurse Sarah." The younger nurses and the doctors were confused. No more one recognized him. They rushed him into a treatment room to tend to his injuries. When a colleague finally fetched Sarah, she walked into the room expecting a former patient with a routine question. The moment she entered, the man on the gurney stopped struggling. His eyes locked onto hers, and they immediately filled with tears. Sarah looked at his face, searching for a flicker of recognition, but found none. Gently, she asked, "I'm sorry, do we know you?" The man's voice was thick with emotion as he replied, "12 years ago, you saved my life. You held my hand when you had number one. I'm Adam." Sarah froze. The world around her seemed to slow down. The beeping monitors, the hurried footsteps in the hall, everything faded into a doham. Adam, the name she had held in her heart for 12 years. It couldn't be. The boy was gone. But here he was, a man, looking at her with the same vulnerable eyes she remembered so clearly. With tears streaming down his face, Adam began to explain the mystery of his disappearance. He told Sarah that he had been kidnapped as a young child and he had lived with his captors for years. He never knew his real name or his real family. The car crash that had brought him to the hospital was his first taste of freedom, a brief escape from that life. But his kidnappers had been looking for him. The night he vanished from the hospital, they had found him. They came in the dead of night, when the hallways were quiet, and they forced him out, threatening him into silence. He was taken away, plunged back into the darkness he had briefly escaped. But he never forgot. He never forgot the kindness of the nurse who had stayed by his side, in a world that had been cruel and frightening. Her touch, her voice, her presence, that was his only memory of genuine human kindness. It was a beacon of hope that he clung to for years. He told her how he spent the next 12 years not just surviving, but fighting to get back to that feeling. He eventually escaped his captors for good, found work, put himself through school, and he slowly built a new life, a new identity. But he was always searching, always trying to find the woman he had shown him that he mattered. "He came back to finish what you started," he sighed, his voice trembling. "You showed me what it was to be seen. You gave me a reason to want to live. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, crumpled, folded note. He handed it to Sarah. It was the same note he had painstakingly tried to write with his one good hand when he was a boy in the hospital bed, a note he never got to give her. She unfolded it, and the faded pencil letters read, "Thank you for seeing me when he was invisible." Sarah couldn't hold back her tears. She sobbed, a flood of relief and joy washing over her after 12 long years of unanswered questions. But Adam wasn't finished with his story. There was another layer to his return, another piece of the puzzle she couldn't possibly have imagined. "There's something else," he sighed, a small smile playing on his lips despite the pain from his injuries. "I'm not just here as a patient." He gestured toward his bag on the floor. At that exact moment, the hospital director walked into the room, a wide grin on his face. He looked from a weeping Sarah to the man on the bed. "Nurse Sarah?" The director sighed, his voice full of pride. "I'd like you to meet the newest member of our team. This is your new emergency unit doctor, Dr. Adam Eli." Adam's smile widened. He looked directly at Sarah, his eyes shining with gratitude and purpose. "You saved me all those years ago." He sighed. "Now, let me save others with you." Sarah broke down completely, her knees feeling weak. This wasn't just the return of a lost patient. It was the arrival of a colleague, a partner, a miracle born from a single act of kindness 12 years ago. Sometimes, the people we help, the lives we touch in fleeting moments, return to us in the most extraordinary ways. They come back not as echoes of the past, but as promises of the future. This hospital didn't just save a life that night. It unknowingly ignited a passion, built a dream, and created a future healer. The boy who was once invisible had returned, not just to say thank you, but to stand beside the very person who first saw him, ready to pay her kindness forward, one patient at a time. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more incredible stories of hope.